Hello students, I welcome you all to this next session of our Science 2 6th chapter Animal Classification. Now in this chapter we are going to study history of animal classification, then a new method it is also called new system of animal classification, and kingdom Animalia means this is a kingdom in which animals are included. Now, in previous standards, we have studied about classification of plants. Yes, in 6th chapter, if you remember, it was a classification of plants, and the kingdom was planty. There was a particular criteria which was used. I hope if you recall the name of the scientist who has classified the organisms. Yes, do you remember? Okay. Now, can you recall which criteria are used for classification of organisms? This is a question, so try to think over it. What is the answer for? Now, can you recall what is the criteria for classification of living organisms? Living organisms are classified based on whether they are having a well-defined nucleus or not. Now, the organisms are very tiny, which we cannot see by naked eyes. Some are very huge. Some can prepare food. Some cannot prepare food. Some cannot. So the scientist who was the pioneer in classification of organisms, that is, if you remember, it is a Robert Whittaker. He has classified the organisms, and his classification is called as Five Kingdom classification. So this was a huge success in classification of organisms. Why now? What is the question is why classification of organisms is required? Why organisms should be classified? Now, one thing is there is a huge diversity of organisms. Diversity means a large number of organisms with various characteristics. Diversity is there in organisms. So to study many organisms with accuracy is not so easy. But if you divide them into particular groups and subgroups, division into groups and subgroups, then the study of organisms study of organisms in detail will be very easy. Okay, so for this reason means you need accuracy. What you need is accuracy in studying these organisms. For this reason, the organisms are classified. Now let's see the classification of living organisms, which was put forth by Robert Whittaker. Living organisms are classified into two groups. Yes, do you remember? One is prokaryotes. What is the basis for this? Prokaryotes. And the second is eukaryotes. What is the basis for this prokaryotes and eukaryotes? Can you tell? Now, Prokaryotes and eukaryotes is based on well-defined nucleus is absent here. Well-defined nucleus absent, and here in case of eukaryotes, well-defined nucleus is present. Well-defined nucleus present. Okay, so well-defined nucleus absent and the well-defined nucleus is present in eukaryotes. Now under prokaryotes comes microorganisms are included, that is kingdom is Monera. Means microorganisms comes under kingdom Monera. Okay, so bacteria like that are included. Now eukaryotes, if you see what you can do for eukaryotes. Eukaryotes can be classified into, again, based on what? They are classified again into two subgroups, unicellular and multicellular. Based on whether they are single cell are included in unicellular, and multicellular are included, means multicellular includes many cell organisms. So based on whether they are having single cell or many cells, they are included into two subgroups, eukaryotes, into two subgroups, unicellular, multicellular. Now under unicellular comes kingdom. Yes, can you recall? Kingdom Protista. Like examples, Euglena, Paramecium, Amoeba. Whereas in multicellular, the organisms included are again divided into two subgroups, with a cell wall and without cell wall. With cell wall means do they have cell wall, or if they don't have cell wall, without cell wall. Cells are without cell wall. Now with cell wall, they are again classified into two, that is autotrophic and a heterotrophic. Heterotrophic means whether they can prepare food or they are dependent on others. They are classified into autotrophic and heterotrophic. Under autotrophic, you know, that is kingdom Plantae, that is plants. Whereas in case of heterotrophic, what is being used is what is being included is kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi means they depend on others for their food. Now without cell wall is the only one, that is a kingdom Animalia, which includes large varieties of animals. So you can see here, this is one kingdom, this is one, then this is 1, 3, then Protista and kingdom Monera. So this is 1, this is 2, then this is 3, then this is 4, and this is Animalia is 5. So it's a 5 kingdom classification. If you see, it's a 5 kingdom classification. Now, can you recall? There's a question for you on page 61. How are the plants classified? Last year we have studied plants are classified into subkingdom, that is cryptogams and phanerogams. Phanerogams. These are the divisions. These are subkingdoms. Subkingdom, cryptogams and phanerogams. On what basis they are classified? Gametes or seeds are hidden, and here they are evident. Gametes are evident. Okay. Now subkingdom cryptogams is classified into 3 divisions. That is division Thallophyta, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta. Now this is based on whether they are having true root, stem and leaves. Here they are absent. So these are the primitive plants. Just the body is green color but no differentiation of a root, stem and leaves. Here false stem and roots are present, whereas here the well developed roots, leaves and stem is present in a Pteridophyta. Now coming to phanerogams, they are classified into 2 divisions. That is, if you remember, one is angiosperms and the second one is gymnosperms. What is meant by angiosperms? Yes, here seeds are enclosed, whereas here the seeds are gymnos means naked, sperma means seeds are naked. Seeds are naked means not enclosed in a fruit, whereas here seeds are enclosed in fruits. Now angiosperms again we have classified into dicots and monocots based on whether their seeds are having single cotyledon or a single cotyledon are called monocots and 2 cotyledons dicots. Okay, so this is a classification of plants. If you remember, recall all these things. It's not so much necessary this year, but you should remember these things. Now animals, if you consider, animals, they are near about 7 million. So to study so much large number of animals in detail with accuracy, and immediately you can able to tell the characteristics of the organism. Is it possible? So there is a huge diversity in these animals. Huge diversity. So to study accuracy in studies, in studying the animals, there is some criteria. Okay, now some animals have hairs on their skin, some have feathers, some have scales, some have respiratory organs or lungs, some have skin. Okay, then So there are variations in the characteristics of animals. So it's important that we should classify the animals. Let's see the definition. Formation of groups and subgroups of animals depending upon similarities and differences among animals is called as animal classification. Means we are dividing them into groups and subgroups. Now let's study the history of animal classification. There were various scientists who have contributed towards the animal classification. The first scientist was the Greek philosopher, that is Aristotle. You can see in the picture. His criteria for classifying organisms was body size, habits, and habitat. Now, besides Aristotle, some other scientists have also followed this artificial method of classification. They were the Pliny, John Ray, and Linnaeus. But later on, due to the development of science and technology, new criteria of classification have been started. Next system of classification was natural system of classification. Now it was based on criteria body organization, means whether the body of an organism is made up of cell, tissue, or organ. Next is types of cells and chromosomes, etc. Certain characteristics were considered in this natural system of classification. Later on, a system of classification based on evolution was brought into practice by Dobzhansky and Mayer. Now, due to sudden changes in the genetic material, that is called as mutations, a new species can come into existence. So, this is the basis for the evolution of a new species. Recently, the new scientist, that is Carl Woese, has proposed the animal classification. It's given in the picture. You can see he has classified into three classes, that is bacteria, archaea, and